Look, we talk about anxiety in the market. We talk about a government shutdown. We worry about maybe the push and the pull of trade deals, whether it's with Taiwan, whether it's with South Korea. And yet, Nvidia's at a record high today. Micron's at a record high today, Fiona. Do you just keep on allocating to the AI trade?
It feels like it's that way. I mean, whilst we are seeing pockets of safe haven demand, so obviously we've seen gold trading at record high, we've seen the Japanese yen is strengthening against the US dollar, we're seeing equities still remaining very well supported. So I think there is very much this sense that particularly tech stocks are still attracting a lot of attention because investors want to put their money somewhere, and big tech in the US remains a solid trade. We've still got the outlooks. We'll be getting more information of that when we get into earnings season, but it does feel that we've had this sort of gradual climb higher that's not really letting up, even though there are clearly plenty of risks out there, such as the shutdown of the US government, but still those optimism surrounding those Fed rate cuts is still helping the sector as well.
It is about the macro policy making, whether or not we get the jobs data on Friday or not, Fiona. What's happening in Europe? Because I'm looking at ASML is also up 1.3%. Are you getting a pull across to other regions right now?
Yes, I think there has been. And, it's quite interesting because I think there was a period just recently where Europe was struggling against the US. We were seeing the US climbing to fresh record highs. We were seeing the NASDAQ up. We were seeing the S&P 500 up. And yet in Europe, we were sort of suffering a little bit on down days. But I think there is a sense now that that is starting to turn around again. As you said, there is that sort of pull across that we're getting from the US into tech stocks in Europe, which is helping. As far as sort of other sectors, there had been a strength in defense stocks in Europe, which I think has just sort of wound down a little bit. But yeah, as far as tech stock are concerned, we are seeing some encouraging signs again.
Fiona, a story we did not get to with Bloomberg's Mike Shepherd was Taiwan's vice premier coming out and saying that the country rejects a United States demand for Taiwan to actively help in bringing 50%, half of semiconductor manufacturing for the US supply base into the United States. This is a sort of part of the negotiation broadly on trade with that nation. But it speaks to other things that Caroline outlined to you, which is the impact of this administration's policy on the technology sector. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think with this administration, policy is very much a central part of how markets are responding as to the outlook for stocks and also for sentiment. As we've talked about, it does feel like this administration is having a very active role, as we know, in setting out policy and involving themselves in policy, which is affecting stocks. It's affecting sentiment to a degree. But I think also that there is a little bit of caution. We're not seeing the same rapid, quick responses that we used to see at the beginning of Trump's administration, where he would make these announcements and we would see a big reaction in stock, big reaction in the markets. We're seeing a more relaxed response, I would say, to the comments that come out from Trump. Although they are still there, they're just not making the same impact that perhaps they have previously.
Fiona, did technology investors start looking for opportunities in sectors and companies where a US government might take a stake?
Yeah, that does seem to feel like it could be the next one to be watching for. I think they have been much more proactive in looking for stakes, as we've heard with the lithium deal as well, that they are keen to get a foot in and perhaps make the US potentially even more competitive than it is against peers such as China. So that could be the next one to be watching out for.
Fiona, do you see signs of a bubble?
I see that we are high value. There are high valuations at the moment. I mean, that was something that was noted by Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell just a few weeks ago. But I think really what we need to see is what earnings are going to be telling us. You know, I think there's going to be a lot of focus on earnings season, on forward guidance. I don't think we're in bubble territory, but I do feel that we are quite overstretched in some areas. But that doesn't mean to say that we necessarily are going to see a big collapse here at all. I think there is potential for some consolidation. And if we do get okay readings from the earnings at the end of this month going to November, then I think that could potentially be a reason, a catalyst for another leg higher, especially if we're seeing the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates further.